Last week in Michigan politics, a Traverse City business getting national attention for refusing to serve some LGBTQ+ customers after a recent Supreme Court ruling how one expert says it could be illegal. Plus, the public weighing in on proposed ordinances in the city of Grand Rapids that some say could target unhoused people. And lights, camera, legislation, how some lawmakers and filmmakers are working together to bring the next blockbuster films here to Michigan. I'm Josh Alburtus, and this is your 13 on Your Side Rundown. Thanks for joining us, West Michigan. We begin in Traverse City, where a hair salon has come under fire after it announced transgender individuals and other members of the LGBTQ+ community would no longer be welcome in their business. But despite a recent Supreme Court case on this topic, the language of that ruling and state law are why one expert we spoke to in our area said what this business is doing could be illegal. One Michigan business under fire after it announced it will not serve some members of the LGBTQ community. In a now deleted post, Studio 8 Hair Lab in Traverse City said that people identifying as transgender and other queer identities would not be welcome, saying, quote, "If a human identifies as anything other than a man/woman, please seek service at a local pet groomer. You are not welcome at this salon." It comes following a June Supreme Court decision ruling a Colorado web designer could refuse service for same-sex couples looking for wedding websites. However, the language of that ruling, one local expert said, while potentially vague, does not apply to all businesses.
It seems that the Supreme Court said that you can only do that if the business you're in has some expressive value. Judging from what the Supreme Court said in the Colorado case, expressive type of good or service would be anything that requires a design.
While the owner of the business did not respond to 13 on Your Side's request for comment Thursday, a Facebook account under her name did publicly respond to backlash for the decision, writing that she has no issues with lesbian, gay, and bisexual individuals, but that it's, quote, the TQ+ with whom she draws issue. Dependent on the scope of the court's decision, the state's updated anti-discrimination law that includes LGBTQ people, Beery said, would bar the salon from refusing service.
It'll come down to, do they find that, providing hair salon services is expressive? In that case, Michigan civil rights laws would have to yield to the First Amendment. But if giving somebody a haircut is not expressive, then this kind of discrimination is barred under state law very clearly.
In a statement to 13 on Your Side, Attorney General Dana Nessel's office confirmed they had received multiple complaints and that the issue is, quote, likely to be litigated. That said, the office said in the statement, the holding in 303 Creative has no impact on Michigan's Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act when it is applied to protect against discrimination in the provision of public accommodations that do not constitute speech, let alone expressive speech. It is not a blanket invitation to discriminate.
So many people who provide so many services can claim that they have designed their service. I could claim as a law professor that I've designed my course. So I do expect a lot of this litigation.
And turning now to Grand Rapids, residents on Tuesday shared their thoughts on proposed ordinances that could impact the unhoused community, especially downtown. 13 on Your Side's Carla Byron spoke with the American Civil Liberties Union of Michigan ahead of that meeting on why there is a concern.
The ACLU of Michigan says the proposed ordinance changes are vague and criminalize homelessness. The city disagrees. The first proposed change is to the nuisances provisions of the code. The changes would place a ban on tents in any public area without a permit, forbid anyone from storing personal property in a public area, and allow city staff to seize or impound the property, which people can get back. The second change is to the disorderly conduct provisions of the code. The changes would add definitions of loitering or accosting and prohibit this conduct in doorways, in and around an ATM, vehicle, outdoor dining area, or special event.
What is effectively happening through these ordinances is that the city is penalizing being homeless.
Naja Tillman, an attorney with the ACLU of Michigan, is pushing back against these changes because she says people in Grand Rapids have the constitutional right to be in public spaces and have a right to their personal property. She believes the city should instead shift their focus to finding the unhoused affordable housing.
Just really focusing on like the humanity and the dignity of the people who are also going through this. Like, we don't need to throw people in jail for being homeless. We need to throw them into houses. And so I think that is absolutely the solution, but I also recognize that it's not an easy solution.
In a statement, the city says in part, the focus of the available remedies in the proposed ordinance changes are civil and not criminal in nature. Despite the mischaracterization of the proposed ordinance changes, the city of Grand Rapids remains committed to solution-based collaboration. Reporting in downtown Grand Rapids, Carla Byron, 13 on your side.
And turning now to your voice, your vote. We are now 6 months out from the GOP's first-in-the-nation presidential nominating contest in Iowa, but already one candidate has managed to secure the support of Michigan's entire Republican congressional delegation. Former President Donald Trump announced this week he had claimed the endorsements of Michigan's 6 U.S. congresspeople, Representatives Tim Walberg, Bill Huizenga, John Molinar, Jack Bergman, Lisa McClain, and John James, all putting out statements posted by the Trump campaign, saying Trump has already delivered in the past and they look to him to do so in the future. A joint statement from all but James noting that Trump was the only Republican candidate to succeed in Michigan since 1988. All 6 will be placed on what the campaign calls its Michigan Federal Leadership Team. The Iowa caucuses are scheduled for January. And this isn't the only 2024 race here in Michigan that saw movement this past week. Candidates announcing their bids this week for Michigan's 7th congressional district, currently held by Congresswoman Alyssa Slotkin, who is making her own run for the U.S. Senate. Former state senators Curtis Hertel, a Democrat, and Tom Barrett, a Republican, announced their bids for the seat, a historical swing district that is being heavily eyed by both parties in their hope to control the House. Slotkin makes her exit after holding the seat since 2018. Barrett ran for this same seat last year against Slotkin, but was defeated. And at the Capitol, the state legislature remained on recess last week, but Governor Gretchen Whitmer, however, signing a flurry of legislation that had already been sent to her desk. Among them, the governor signed bills making child marriage illegal and making cohabitation legal. Until now, there was no minimum age in Michigan for child marriage. Those 16 and 17 years old had needed parental consent, and those under 16 required both parental and judicial consent. A man and woman who were unmarried and cohabitating could be guilty of a misdemeanor under state law. The governor also signing a package of bills that prohibit and criminalize engaging in sexual conduct or penetration under the pretext of medical treatment, misrepresenting what someone is doing to a patient to induce them into it. This changes law from applying just to intercourse and now upping the penalty from up to 10 to now up to 20 years in prison. Other new laws include those that remove the asset test for food assistance benefits and that make Juneteenth, honoring the end of slavery in the United States, an annual holiday. The legislature is expected to return this week, but it will be one of only 2 weeks until September that sessions are scheduled. Whitmer also making multiple executive changes. By executive order, Whitmer creating a new state department, the Michigan Department of Lifelong Education, Advancement, and Potential, or MI-LEAP. The department will create within it offices of early childhood education, higher education, and education partnerships, and will bring other offices in from other departments, coming together for, quote, establish and implement a statewide vision for lifelong education from preschool to post-secondary. And blockbuster films like Batman vs. Superman and Transformers all filmed here in Michigan. Since then, Michigan has done away with past incentives for the film industry, leaving big-name films few and far between. Now, however, a new push from lawmakers and filmmakers is looking to bring them back. Lights, camera, legislation. Filmmakers across the state joining with lawmakers to bring back measures to bring the major films of tomorrow to Michigan.
They all say in unison the same thing. You know, we want our state to back our jobs and show up for us as well, as it's a thriving community. It once was a thriving community, and it'll be that again.
The effort comes after film incentives established in 2008 were removed in 2015. The new changes feature key differences, however. Rather than direct rebates to filmmakers, the new changes would give them state tax credits.
And what that means is that it can only be used to offset Michigan taxes, so only a Michigan company can benefit.
But it isn't just filmmakers, they say, that could stand to benefit from bolstering Michigan's industry.
Almost everybody. I've once heard it termed, a movie comes into town, it's like dropping a boatload of cash.
From local restaurants to hotels and others, it takes a community, they say, to create the world of film.
All the trades.
All the trades.
Plumbers to electricians to carpenters to...
Can be involved.
While the lack of any measures has taken its toll on local filmmakers, the bipartisan support they say they've received makes them optimistic this will be Michigan's turn in the spotlight.
I feel like you can sense that this is something that every part of the community is eager for, and across a political spectrum as well. And that gives me hope that this is not a niche act, but something that that can really make an impact on this state and put it in competition with other states in the Midwest that have similar programs.
And that is the rundown for your week in Michigan politics. Be sure to stay up on all the top political stories of the day, both on air and online at 13onyourside.com. We'll see you next week.